Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Thread. Not the type of episode that we thought we'd be doing or we want to be doing. I did plan on coming back and doing episodes after Simchas Torah regularly, but we have um, a troubling episode today discussing what happened in Israel, what's happening in Israel. But I don't know about you, but I was in shul on Simchas Torah, and word started trickling in um, that something quite large was going on. Once I started hearing the word kidnapping, there were some waiters in shul that they had staff working in a job in Israel, and
Mhm.
they said that the event is canceled, and it really became clear that it was way more than what we've ever seen before. And now we're being joined actually by a good friend of mine, Hillel Fuld. Hillel, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Daily Thread. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm sorry, I'm a bit early, but good
No,
German, you know. My dad always
No,
says the best way to
it's
not come late, come early.
early is good. Hillel, hi, it's Larry Gordon. I'm in the other holy city here in holy state of Florida, and Achi is in New York. You're in Jerusalem, I am assuming.
I'm in Beit Shemesh, outside of Jerusalem.
You're in Beit Shemesh. Okay, that's close enough. We were just talking about how the frustration of being in shul for 2 days and having news trickle down of this nature, very reminiscent for me. I'm older than both of you guys, very reminiscent of Yom Kippur 50 years ago. And some of the frustration, how word ekes out from various unofficial sources, and you have to emotionally and mentally patch things together and try to figure out what's going on through a very, very long day. What was it like for you there?
It wasn't much different. We had one day, but I'm in shul and synagogue and dancing with the Torahs as we do on Simchas Torah. And immediately, as we're kind of taking the Torahs out of the ark, you hear a screech from the women's section, Azaka, which means siren. We didn't know what was flying. On the way to shul 5 minutes before, me and my kids had heard explosions that we knew was the Iron Dome, which, sadly to say, is not something that's super rare. I mean, it's not something you hear every day, but there've been many times we heard it. Nothing escalated. Everything was fine. So I figured another one of those. When the Azaka, when the siren went off, we all kind of ran to the bomb shelter. The thing is that we're a shul of many hundreds of English-speaking immigrants. Rabbi Rosner, you might know from Woodmere, is my rabbi.
Sure.
And there's not enough room in the bomb shelter for all of us. And the bomb shelter wasn't created for a day where there's 700 people in shul or whatever the amount of people there was. So, the women went in and the men kind of stood against the wall, not knowing what the heck is going on. And slowly but surely, everyone's kids started to get called up, including Rabbi Rosner and many of the community's kids started to get called up to the army. People came from out of Beit Shemesh to pick up soldiers who didn't have their phones on them. And we started to understand there's something a lot more serious going on here, obviously. And the rumor started, and I'm not a big fan of rumors. I'm not a big fan of I don't know if you guys know this, but I found out about my brother's murder from a surveillance video, so I'm not a big fan of that stuff.
right.
Well, we should point out your brother was Ari Fuld. He was murdered a few years ago by a terrorist. 5 years ago, just I think he was about to go shopping in a store on a
Right.
regular routine day.
Right.
And you guys have American roots. You're Olim, and prominent American family, and prominently, have a presence in Eretz Yisrael. Now, let's just back up for a couple of minutes. Now, Israel is what they call a citizens' army. Okay, you have a core military, which serves the country, but then for something like this, something of this magnitude, which is shocking. I know Shabbos morning I went to shul down here, and the security guard told us that 40 people were killed. And we were astounded at the number. And how do you explain what you heard? The next night or the next morning when the numbers were 4, 5, 6, then 700
Yeah.
and more. I mean,
I
there
mean,
hasn't been an experience like that since the Yom Kippur War, I think.
no. There hasn't been an experience at all. The deadliest day during the Yom Kippur War, I think, was 310 casualties. So we're not talking in the same universe even. Now it's standing at 800 last I checked, but it's definitely going to be going up, unfortunately. As Shabbos and the holiday progressed, I was obviously feeling super duper anxious because of all the rumors, and everyone around me was trying to kind of calm me down. I don't know where this number came from, but I said to several people around me, how am I supposed to calm down? What happens if I come back from Shabbos and there are 75 casualties? And I don't know where that number 75 came from, but that was like my worst nightmare. That was the craziest number I could fathom. And obviously when I turned on my phone at the end of Shabbos, I could not breathe, literally could not breathe. And I haven't caught my breath since, if I'm being honest. I kind of, convinced myself or not that my role, my shlichus right now is to spread positivity as much as I can. I don't know who gave me that shlichus. Maybe I gave it to myself. Maybe it's just the only thing I can do to keep my mind off of the real, tragedy and just horrible, horrible experience that this entire nation is going through right now. But I'm trying my best, and it's really, really crazy. I don't think the world can even begin to comprehend. I mean, forget the numbers, right? I mean, the number that I heard that really kind of put it in perspective for me is, if we're talking about 800 people out of 9 million people, that's like 22. That's like 22 9/11s in terms of numbers.
I saw a number like it's like
just so you guys understand. As I'm sitting here, these are all attacks. As in real time, these are all my notifications right now. Like it's nonstop. It's just nonstop. There was, infiltrations in the north, infiltrations in the south. It's wild.
Phil, I want to ask you, as the news trickled here in America, and obviously everyone's in a different place, so the exposure is different. Where I was, there were a few waiters in the shul, and like I had mentioned before you came on, they had staff working a job in Israel. And, when I went to them, I said, hey, could you guys check the news for a second? They're like, you don't want to see it. And the first time that I had them show me the news, the number was at 300 killed. And I looked at the people around me. I said, like, this is going to be historically one of the most dark days in the history for the Jewish people, for Israel. We're living an unbelievable day. And another thought I had as the day progressed and we started seeing the news is, how is Israel caught off guard like this? How could something like this happen? Everyone knows that you go to Israel, they know how many times that you go to the bathroom. They know if you packed your own luggage. How could it be that hundreds of terrorists infiltrated into Sderot, which is, it's an intense place. We know that border is intense. It's always been that way. Besides for the 3,000 rockets, how did this happen? What do you think?
Well, first of all, just to give one more number for perspective, there's never been a deadlier day in the history of the Jewish people since the Holocaust, as there was 2 days ago. I don't have any answers for you. I do know that there is absolutely no way that what we see is what we get. There's a video circulating about one of the soldiers whose job it was for 2 years to, just basically sit in I don't know, you want to know what you call it, a little kind of cubicle and just stare at the border of Gaza. And she said, like, if a bird flies by, like, she was woken up, like, so there's no way in heck that, hundreds of terrorists were able to come on tractors. And so there's something more going on here. I don't know, and I'm not implying that there's any, conspiracies.
What can it possibly be? I saw, just before you came on, I saw a picture from one of the social media sites of a grandmother on a golf cart being driven, I don't know if you saw that, by 3 terrorists.
Driven back to Gaza.
Driving back to Gaza for 2 miles with undisturbed.
Yeah. So again, I don't have the real answers, but the only logical answer that I could come up without conspiracies is that we gave them complete freedom to acquire sophisticated weapons, kamikaze drones, rockets and missiles. Like, we're thinking of these rockets. I was actually corrected in one of my first posts when I was using the word rockets, and several people wrote me, so you need to stop using that word. It's not a rocket. It's a missile with GPS. This is much more sophisticated than those stupid rockets they used to light. But we just sat around and said, well, they didn't join the last round of violence with the Islamic Jihad, so I guess Hamas doesn't really want in on the action. And they completely pulled one over our heads for the last 2 years. And we just sat by and let them. And so, not getting into the politics of it, but I will say that if I am trying to, find the cup half full perspective, it is that when this is all over, what was will no longer be, right? That reality is done. Whether that means there is no more Hamas, whether that means we take over Gaza, whether that means we have complete, close control over what comes in and goes out of God. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but what was will not be, and that is 100% for sure.
Yeah, as we're sitting here, there are people who I know that um, I'm getting their names to Hillel as the texts say that they're heading right now to the battlefield. Like people are getting ready to head into Gaza. So you
Hmm.
had just mentioned we're not sure what's going to be. Obviously, there's a very fluid situation. The pulse of the nation, I would say, here in America, and you could tell me what you feel like it is over there in Israel, is, you know what? Maybe let's go back to 2005. Maybe let's go back to Gush Katif. We gave up this land. It was a gesture of peace. That's not possible. They turned it into a launching pad. They're kidnapping kids, children, women. These are not people that we can negotiate with. These are not people that we can reason with. Let's level the place and let's start at Aleph.
Right.
Is that unreasonable? Is that something that's possible?
I mean, I really, really trying so hard to stay away from politics right now. And, I wrote a post about what I think the government should do. And I immediately got a call from someone in the Knesset saying, take down that post. It's not appropriate right now, whatever. But,
What did the post? What did the post? What did the post say?
I'll tell you in a second. Just to answer your question, though, I think that when we disengaged, which was historic, just travesty, undemocratic in every conceivable way, these I'm going to watch my mouth. These morons in the Knesset literally got up there and said, people are scared of there being rockets on the south. Give me a break. That's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. If one rocket falls on the south, we're taking over Gaza. This is literally things that they said. You would think by now there have been hundreds or tens of MKs who got up and said, I am sorry, I was wrong. Guess how many of them got up and said that? Zero. So, I don't even, it's not a question of taking it over. It's a question of correcting a historic mistake of unprecedented proportions. I think what Israel did was a travesty, honestly, in every possible way. And so I don't think it doesn't come to as a surprise to anybody with half a brain in their head that this is what happened. But okay, so we learned the hard way, and now it's game over. And so, again, I don't know what that means if we're going to take over. I don't know, but it can't go back to the way it was. As far
I
as
mean,
the
take
post,
over.
Well,
You then have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Gazans. What do you do with that?
you
It,
have
it sounds
you have 2.2 million Gazans that you have to assume responsibility for. Granted, the fact of the matter is now Dov Galant, who's a defense minister, announced last night or today that they're cutting off
Yoav Gallant, Yoav Gallant.
Yoav Galant, that they're cutting off electricity, water supply, and food supply. How long could that last? And until the world starts caving in on Israel.
So, I mean, if you're asking me, Hillel, the frum Jew, or are you asking Hillel, the, let's call it political scientist? Hillel, though, I don't, I have many different answers to that question. But I wrote a post in an eerie, kind of bizarre way 3 days before this happened. Literally, you can look at my social, and I said, guys, you are not paying attention to what's going on right now in the world. I said, we are at a boiling point. I wrote this 3 days before. I said, we're at a boiling point. We're at a boiling point with Ukraine and Russia. We're at a boiling point with America, with left and right. We're at a boiling point with China. It's something is about to happen. And in the post, I wrote, Israel will always be in the middle of it because that's just what will happen. And I don't think that this is a war between Israel and the Arabs in Gaza. I think it started here. But in my opinion, America sent over the biggest, jet carrier, I think, in the world.
yeah.
This is, I don't want to say World War III. I don't want to say Gog and Magog. I don't know any of these things. I'm not a military strategist, but this is not going to stop here. I have absolutely no doubt about that. Just to answer your question from before, the post that I wrote was that we need a unity government, and that I had written Naftali Bennett yesterday, who's a close friend, and said, you need to get back in the ring right now because, like it or not, nobody trusts Netanyahu. I'm not going to get into politics. I don't care if you like or if you don't like. The fact of the matter is half the country doesn't like Netanyahu. And in a war, we need unity. And so I said to him, we got to create a unity government. We got to have you back in the game. And I wrote that. And to be clear, again, Naftali's a close friend, but I told him straight into his face what he did last time to become prime minister was, I don't want to say, it was bad. Okay, I'm not going to use any whatever.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is I got a call from someone who works in the Knesset who shall remain unnamed saying, you better take that post down right now. A, it's inappropriate because we're not talking politics now. B, Naftali Bennett has less support in this country, in this nation than what's his name, Mansour, the Arab MK. So he said, "What are you talking about? He should be prime minister." The guy, this is a democracy. The guy has no support. So I took down the post. But the reality is that everything's going to change right now. There's no taking away the pain that we're experiencing as a people, as a nation. But I do want to hope that at the end of the day, this will change the equation globally. I do believe that to be the case. But, and this is huge, I absolutely agree with you about your assessment before, which is that eventually this global support that is right now unwavering support from the entire world will come to an end. All it takes is one building with 50 kids, dead, and that's it. The support's over.
Right.
And when America and the world says to us, "Hold your fire," and we give them the middle finger, there goes all the support. So I don't know.
Yeah, as we're even talking right now, I'm seeing reports that Israeli forces eliminated 2 terrorists who infiltrated the Galilee
North.
from Lebanon. So
Mhm.
they're dealing with the north border right now. You had mentioned that there's unwavering support from the world. Something that has been the most frustrating thing over here I'll just talk for myself, is that I live in New York, and in my city, in Times Square, there are thousands
Yeah.
of people marching in the street, protesting in support of Palestine and
Yeah.
cheering and
Yeah, well,
celebrating what's going
that's New
on.
York. That's New York, now.
But that's happening. But that's happening in every major city.
Well,
Guys,
down
listen.
here,
Let me tell you
down
something. Let
here,
me tell you something
we're
right
having
now.
a pro-Israel rally today at 4 o'clock down here in Fort Lauderdale. I
Do you
want you
guys
to know.
recognize the shirt that I'm wearing?
That's
I can't see. I don't
is
see.
that
So
that
59%.
Yeah,
What
nasty.
does
this
it say?
shirt it's a shirt created by Nas Daily Musayer Hassin, who's a very, very, very successful, popular blogger
Yeah.
who grew up in a quote unquote Palestinian village, and
Yeah.
he's a good friend. And for years, he identified as a Palestinian Israeli. And he posted something today, which I think is monumental, and that is that he no longer identifies as a Palestinian first. He is an Israeli first. After he sees
Hmm.
what's happening, he understands that if they came here, they would kill him just like they kill me. And he's right. And so I think that that's just maybe a manifestation or an example, illustration of what's going on in public opinion. I think Israel has never had more support. Yes, there are crazies. Yes, there are whatever pro-Palestine, but to support Palestine now with what's going on right now, killing women and children. If you support Palestine, you are a terrorist. Like there's no gray area anymore. Today, after what you saw, if you are supporting the Palestinian cause, you are a terrorist. Period. It's not gray anymore. So again, that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. I think the world now sees the true face of the Palestinian people. I don't think anyone has any doubt about what Israel needs to do. The European Union is pulling their money from Palestine, the Palestinian cause. America's doing it. Everyone is changing their tune, and so I think that that's a positive thing. And at the end of the day, guys, at the end of the day, we know how this ends, right? We know how it ends. It will end well for us. I just hope that the casualties and the hurdles along the way are not too great for us
Yeah,
to.
obviously you're not in the military, but the challenge here is that Israel isn't. They don't have the freedom to just fire at random, because we do know that there are up to 150 hostages that are in Gaza. I don't know how that resolves itself. That's never happened before. Maybe the most we've had is maybe a few soldiers here and there who have been taken to Gaza, but they have over 150 soldiers and civilians that are in
We have
Gaza right
kids,
now. Yeah,
women, children.
the videos on social media are absolutely disgusting. And of all things that this started at was a peace festival on the border of Gaza where this took place. But just to pivot, Hillel, you tweeted something 5 hours ago, and the nature of social media, things like this happen. It right now has 1.6 million views. It could be the last time you checked it 30 minutes ago. It was at a million views, but it was basically a prayer to the soldiers of what our prayer is. It has almost 5,000 retweets, 20,000 likes. Could you tell me what was going through your mind when you wrote that post? Did you think that it was going to pop off like that, and what you want to say about it?
Nachi, you believe me that I have no idea what you're talking about? I don't. I muted all my tweets. I'm not looking at
You
anything.
don't you don't know.
I don't even know what you're talking about. I
Well,
know there was a.
tell them
So
what you're talking about.
you wrote
Hold
something.
on, 1 second,
Yeah.
1 second. I just want to know. There was 2 times in the last 2 weeks where Elon Musk shared my tweet, and that reached millions. But this tweet that you're referring to with the prayer for the soldiers, I literally I tweet something and then I mute it so I don't get any notifications because I could not. And again, you have to understand, guys. This is after I muted my notifications. Let me see if you could see this. Look at the amount of notifications since we're talking, guys. Look at this. This is
Right.
unmanageable. I can't do anything with it. I don't know what to do with it. So I don't even know what you're talking about.
So
Literally.
David Friedman did quote reply your tweet as along with different members
How
of
do
the
you see that?
media. I see that I'm on
Teach me how to
Twitter.
use Twitter. You could
I
see the
know.
biggest people who shared it.
I just honestly, what I said 1.6 million. It has over 100,000 views in the last 30 seconds. So your tweet is going viral. It's basically, the tweet reads, in case you didn't hear the IDF spokesman, it begins: Gaza is under complete lockdown. No one comes, no one leaves. The border is locked down. All passages are closed. We have shut down their electricity. We have cleaned out our towns and cities of any terrorist. 300,000 reserve soldiers have been drafted, the most ever. And now we go on the offense. The prayer for our soldiers is, He who blessed our forefathers, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, may He bless the fighters of the Israel Defense Force who stand guard over our land and the cities of our God, from the border of Lebanon to the desert of Egypt, from the great sea unto the approach of the Arava, on the land and the air and on the sea. May Hashem cause the enemies who rise up against us to be struck down before them. May the Holy One bless us. He preserve and rescue our fighting men from every trouble and distress and from every plague and illness. And may He send blessings and success in their very endeavor. May He lead our enemies under their sway. May He grant them salvation and crown them with victory. And may there be fulfilled for them the verse, for it is Hashem your God who goes with you to battle your enemies for you to save you. Now let us respond, amen. Here we go. The blood of our brothers and sisters will be avenged, and that starts right now. It's a picture of three Israeli soldiers, women who are marching to battle. And
how many views does that have now? I literally, it's so funny you're telling me this. I had no idea.
Yeah, I just refreshed, and it's at 1.8 million views.
Jeez,
and people are obviously resonating with it. And listen, I hope that we continue to have the unwavering support. I think, my father and I were speaking, Israel has 2 days right now where they'll have support of the world until the UN gets together, and Joe Biden maybe will say, hey, listen, let's show restraint. The famous line of showing restraint from our good old friend Barack Obama, who hasn't said a darn word since this happened. The Barack Obama who sent $221 million in his final hours in office to these Palestinians. The Joe Biden who sent $6 billion to Iran a few weeks ago. And they swore that not a dollar of that money is being used towards this.
Yeah, on humanitarian issues. But Hillel, we're dealing really with a different dynamic today. You have open channel between Netanyahu and Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia. You have an open channel with Qatar, the Qatar that supplies the Palestinians with billions of dollars, and have special permission from the Israeli government to transport the money across the Gaza border in cash, by the way. Because they don't trust their checks for some reason, or they don't write checks. So you have these besides the communication with Egypt and Jordan, which has changed dramatically, over the last several decades. So you have a Middle East that's shifting towards wanting to align themselves with Israel, and you have these characters. I don't know what they celebrating the 50th anniversary of their defeat in the Yom Kippur War. Were they trying to undermine the imminent announcement of a diplomatic connection between Saudi Arabia and Israel? Why this? Why now? Why at this particular moment?
Again, I don't have any answers for you other than what I'm reading, and I'm reading that this is something that was in the works for 2 years, and not only was in the works for 2 years, but they really pulled one over us, like I said before. And what I read, it's painful for me to even say, but what I read from a Hamas terrorist that we captured and interrogated is that the protests in Israel encouraged them, which hurts my heart more than I can't even tell you how much that hurts to read. Just to be clear, I want to just make a disclaimer about that last thing I just said. I'm, God forbid, in no way, and I want to be as unequivocal as possible, blaming anyone other than our other terrorist enemies for this. This is nothing to do with Israeli politics.
Nothing justifies those actions, 100%.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know why now. I don't know, the thought process. I don't know how this happened. There's so many questions that need to be answered. But right now, all we need to do as a nation, as a people, is, for the love of God, put our differences aside right now, which you'd think would be so trivial and so obvious because it's been in the past. Every time there's an operation, we unite. Unfortunately, that is not the case right now, and it boggles my mind that in this kind of a situation that there's still people posting on Facebook about Bibi and people on the other side posting. It's just, leave it alone right now. Like blaming the settlers, the army was in the settlements and therefore they were able. Stop it. Just stop it now. Now is not the time. And when I say now is not the time, people get upset at me. When's the time? We tried before. It hurts my heart very badly to know that we can't even unite over this.
Well, politically, I know you don't want to get into the political analysis right now. Maybe it's not the time, but I read that Netanyahu did invite Lapid and Gantz into emergency unity government. What's the status of that? And what does that mean?
I've learned so many times, as I'm sure both of you have, that the press is just absolutely not reliable in any way, shape, or form. I know there's discussion. My brother happens to work in the Knesset, so I know there is discussion about unity government. I would imagine if there's any hurdles that they need to overcome, it's who's going to be prime minister, because half this country cannot get behind Netanyahu. Lapid will not sit with, Smotrich, and what's his name? Lieberman will not sit with Ben Gvir. And again, forget my opinion. Like, the reality is, it's like It's like that joke you say, like Mashiach comes and like, this guy says he's not wearing the right yarmulke. This guy says his hat's not big. It's like, we just don't know how to get along. It's just a crazy thing. And so I hope we do have a unity
Yeah,
government, but it's
yeah,
not
but
easy.
it's called Hillel, it's called an emergency unity government, which I don't think it's meant to be permanent. When you in New York, when your car doesn't start in the winter and you call the AAA, you don't ask who the driver is, and
Yep.
whether he paid his taxes on time or how he treats his family. You just want your car to start.
Yeah, well, that's
Hillel,
the nature of the Jewish people. I'm Kshei Oref, right?
yeah. The last thing I want to ask you, and we'll let you go. I know you have a busy day ahead of you, and I'm sure you're going to turn on your phone, go on Twitter, and see what's going on over there. But you had mentioned in the outset that you lost your brother 5 years ago to the hands of a terrorist, someone who you were very, very close with. Well, what do you think Ari would say on a day like today?
Wow, that's a rough question. Well, I know that he would tell me, ignore the many hundreds, maybe thousands of people that have told you, just stop, focus on you, focus on your family, stop tweeting, stop posting, stop. He would say to me, it's your role in this world. This is what you're here for, and don't stop. That's number one. I know he'd say that to me. He'd be hurting just like the rest of us, probably more. And he would say, I would imagine he would not be able to keep his mouth shut about politics because that was Ari. But I don't know. He would be out in the bases. He'd be out with the soldiers. He would be volunteering, which he did in reserve duty, even though he was way past the age and he got an exemption, which he ripped up and continued to volunteer. He'd be in the field right now. That's where he'd be. He'd be in the front lines.
Let me ask you something else. I know you have to go, but I'm seeing a lot of emails this morning that the ground war, so to speak, hasn't even started. We don't even know that there is going to be one, although the anticipation is that there will be one. But we're already getting emails this morning about the military is running short of. They don't have enough helmets. They don't have enough vests. They don't have enough boots. Is that
No, it's not true.
possible?
Not true.
Is
It's not
that
true,
possible
guys.
that a modern army like
Listen,
Israel?
listen. You need to. I'm telling this to all my friends. I'm telling you, do not believe what you read on the news. Okay, the actual spokesman of the IDF made an announcement about 2 hours ago, announcing what we're doing now. We're going. By the way, just one thing that you said about the ground invasion, it terrifies me because if you think for a second that Hamas was sophisticated enough to pull this off, and they're not waiting for us in Gaza with booby traps, I don't even want to think about that. But it's not true. The army has what they need. Could they have better equipment? Probably. But if you have money to give, I'm not sure that's. I think the army's fine. At least what the spokesman said. I think that there are other, there are families that don't have houses. Really, like these terrorists, these animals, they burned these houses down because they knew there were people inside. People have no houses. And so I think money could be better spent giving it to these families versus giving it to the army, because I think the army, again, based on what the spokesman said, we're okay in terms of equipment. But who knows?
Yeah.
But I think we made we made a little bit of progress here because I noticed that you call them animals, and I noticed that if you remember, Yoav Galant called them animals this morning. Donald Trump during his time called them animals, and everybody, there's always kinds of objections because Nancy Pelosi objected during that time when Trump said that they're human beings. But I think the tide is turning, and they're recognizing that there's some type of animalistic instinct inside of people that look, by all accounts, as humans, but cannot conduct themselves like that and be equated with any of us as human beings on the face of this earth.
Yeah, I owe a deep and sincere apology to animals.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, thanks
100% true.
very
Hello,
much.
Fuld. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to speak on better circumstances.
If it's not too inappropriate for me to say, I've been a fan for a long time.
Thank you. I really, really
You
appreciate
do
it.
work, my friend. You do good work. Keep doing your thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's
All right,
good.
guys.
We'll have to. Thank you very much. We'll have to have
Better
him back.
circumstances.
Yeah.
Yes, God willing. We'll have to have him back, Nachi. Maybe
Yeah.
even if we're actually going to do this daily, as is your plan. Now that Yontif is over,
Well,
it's
listen.
funny. It's funny how Yontif started with a whole different order of priorities in life, and how it's shifted over the last few days so dramatically.
It's scary. It's honestly, it's scary. The world that we lived in, Erev Yontif, is so different than the world that we live in right now. It really is for Jews everywhere. I saw on Golders Green that there are images like Kristallnacht. There's stores being broken because they're owned by Jews, kosher restaurants. You go into
Really,
the city and someone's holding a swastika in Manhattan in 2023. The very thought you had mentioned, you had mentioned that grandmother was taken back into Gaza as a hostage, someone who was holed up in a bed, and she's a
She's riding.
Holocaust survivor,
She's riding
and
in
she
the.
was
She's riding in the. Riding in
she
the
was a
front seat of a golf cart. Like she's on a golf course somewhere. La di da. Just
and she,
riding back to the Gaza border.
and this woman was a Holocaust survivor. This
I think
woman,
she's 84 years old.
this woman survived, the most atrocity, the worst atrocities known to mankind, and here we are in 2023, and like Hillel said, and I've heard this a number of times, October 7th was the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and not
Yeah,
not
Naki,
not not.
but let me just say it's not 1939 and it's not 1973. It's not 1967. It's not 9/11. It's 2023, and maybe things are not happening as fast as we would like to happen. Things are not happening as fast as Twitter can post them. We are used to Twitter type of timing or X. We're used to an X type of timing. It takes time to mobilize 300,000 volunteer force.
I understand all of that. I'm just saying that I think I share the same feeling as many, where we need to get rid of Hamas, and we need to take
Well,
Gaza back.
of course, we need to do that. We do also need, by the way, the involvement of Europeans and the United States and the
Yeah.
Arab Gulf states, because somebody other than Israel has to care for 2.2
Yeah,
million
and let me
people.
tell you something. I said this right away yesterday when we got news of this, but this is an attack on America just as much as it's an attack on Israel. They knew very well that this is the season where the most American tourists are in Israel. This is not just an attack on Israel.
I saw a list of, by the way, I saw a long list of planes. A lot of people flew out last night. El Al and about 20 other airlines flew out last night, and then there was about another 20, including American Airlines, and I don't know about Delta, also are refusing to fly in and out of Israel. So, the Israeli Air Force, with all the screw ups over the last couple of days, is still capable of protecting the main artery in and out of the country, which is the
I
airport.
don't know. I think obviously there's gonna be a time. That time is not now, but there's gonna be a time that the government is gonna have to analyze where they dropped the ball. But how hundreds of terrorists, if not thousands, are able to infiltrate a border, um, go into Sderot is unbelievable. Without a
No, let me let
soldier,
me
like,
let me just say one more thing. This is an important turning point, and it turns very slowly, and not fast enough for any of us. But for 30 years, since the Oslo Accords in 1993, for 30 years, the Israeli objective was to try to humanize their enemy. The theory of Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres was, if we could put them on an even plane with us, and that includes giving them weapons and so on and so forth. If they're like us and we're like them, then we could work together on an even playing field. But I think that has never proven the case over the last 30 years. And yesterday, or Shabbos morning, was the so-called proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. There should be no going back. And I'm afraid sometimes, with the passage of time and
yeah,
after the funerals and after the shivas, and with the passage of time, I'm afraid that the mindset sometimes softens up, and we can't. We also
yeah, I share that fear. I think that there it can never be the same again. For some reason, there was a passage of time, and the Israeli government and the IDF began to have a little bit of faith in Hamas, that they're not going to be the ones that are going to attack us, and they're a bigger fish to fry. But this is it. Israel can let those civilians in Gaza know that it's time for them to go north, go to Syria, go somewhere else, because we're going to level that place. And Gush
yeah,
Katif,
well,
Gush
that's
Katif was a
interesting.
beautiful, beautiful place in 2005 and prior to that. And maybe it's time we go back to
Well,
that.
I'll never forget. It's 43 years ago, but in 1980, when your sister Malki was 10 weeks old, I went to Israel with her and Ima, and we took a walk on the beach in Gaza. And it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful ocean, and little Arab kids were running after us, asking us to give them a couple of pennies. They were like begging for money, but Israel controlled the territory. It doesn't mean that there was military presence with people following us with guns. There was an understanding that Israel was the dominant force, that it was the land of Israel, but they're trying to this effort to, like I said, level the playing field doesn't work.
You
It's
can't
like
treat
I
them. You
don't
can't
know.
treat them like they're civilized beings that can run a
You know,
country.
no, it's like you see the water behind me. There's no alligators in the water here, but there are lakes here down in Florida that have alligators, and sometimes they eat people. You got to be careful. They say you shouldn't. If you're walking a dog, it say you shouldn't walk your dog too close to the water, because you never know when an alligator is gonna come out.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's yeah.
that's the old story with the scorpion and the frog. You know that story, right? The scorpion has to get across the body of water, but it can't swim. So it asks the frog to please take me across the water. So the scorpion gets on the frog's back. And then when it's halfway across the water, the scorpion stings the frog, and they're both about to drown and die. And the frog said, "What did you do that for? I was taking you across the water." And the scorpion said, "Yeah, but I'm a scorpion. I'm a scorpion." That's what they are. Anyway,
Mm.
we have to we're going to follow up, I guess, keep people posted. I think there's by the way, I've been listening to the radio a whole night, pretty much off and on, and I don't think you're going to find the kind of coverage that I think we can provide from people that we know in Israel, and people that have kids in the IDF, and the kind of angle that I think the Daily Thread can provide our listeners with, like what Hillel had to say, very insightful, very very almost refreshing, frustrating too, difficult to listen to, but I think important. And I think the biggest challenge, like he said, and you said, and I said, the biggest challenge is how are we going to deal with the passage of time,
Yeah.
and the way the mind works, and it internalizes and grows accustomed to the news, no matter how shocking it is. So that's
Well,
something that we're going to have
yeah.
to deal with in the days ahead.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to today's Daily Thread. I would say stay tuned to our Daily Thread WhatsApp status that is in the description of this episode. We might come back later today for another hour in the evening just to recap what happened today. Maybe we'll be joined by another guest. So stay tuned if you enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for that. As we're saying this, a rocket landed in Beitar, injured 7 people. So please keep everyone in Eretz Yisrael in your prayers. There are sirens going on as we speak all over Yerushalayim. I would say be careful of the media intake that you take, because there's a lot of videos and pictures that nobody really should see. Um, we'll
I know
try to
you want
keep
to.
it.
I know you. It's a good idea to come back later in the evening if you have time. I know you want to end
We'll,
the episode
we'll
also,
we'll
but
try to do that. We'll try to
I
do
have to
that. We'll
tell
try
you,
to come
I,
back.
w- I was in shul this morning, and I go to shul every day. Shachris ben Chamarav, like many of our listeners do. And I was in shul this morning, and I have to tell you that during the Chazaras shots, the chazan broke down and he couldn't continue. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like that
Yeah,
before. So this is something that is relevant to every single one of us. It's not something
100%,
over. It's not something over there, and we're over here. It's something
100%.
on some level is relevant to all of us. So we'll talk later.
Yeah. Alrighty. We'll speak.